Hi all, welcome to the news update of Professor Visa and Education Services. My name is Janish. I'm a director of Professor Visa and Education Services and also MARA agent in Australia, MARA number 1568498. Today I've got quite a lot of topics to cover. So I want to talk about the General Skill Migration Visa, of course. That's been obviously the hottest topic at the moment. But before I want to start with certain states and territory I want to talk about, especially Canberra, Tasmania and New South Wales. That will be the focus of the topic today in my video. What I'll do is, because the length of the video is going to be extensively long, so in my video post I'll be putting all the minutes for ACT. I'll prescribe the timing on the video that you can actually scroll to that particular point and you can listen to the particular states or territory. Like for example, if you want to listen to Canberra at a certain time, and if you want to listen to Tasmania at a certain time, and then if you want to listen to New South Wales at a certain time, the timeline will be allocated on the social media post that when I'm gonna post out the video. We will be also putting out the timeline on the post itself, so you can just scroll to that right point and you can listen to that part if that interests you. However, we encourage you to listen to the whole video so that you can actually find out about the other states and territory nomination criteria and what's going on over there in relation to your General Skill Migration Visa purposes. Now, before I start with Canberra, I just wanted to congratulate all our clients who has received their 491 190 for this financial year. It has been a big year for Pro Visa, where we have been able to ascertain the nomination criteria well in advance and been able to produce that advice to the guys. And thanks for your support and thanks for listening to our advice. And obviously the results are in front of you. For those ones who's already received the nomination, so congratulations. Obviously, our project will now shift to the next financial year. Still, the New South Wales Treasury especially is still processing some applications. They have not completely finished yet, but for the majority of the other states and territory, they're kind of coming to the end of the financial year. However, this year might look a bit different compared to last year, which I will take you through this video today to explain how things gonna or potentially how things gonna roll out for new financial year 2022. Starting with Canberra, so that's obviously everyone has received the news which was published by the ACT government on their website in terms of the allocated numbers. The allocated numbers is 2,000 for new financial year 2021 and 2022, which is amazing results for ACT Canberra, because this is the highest number of allocation ACT government has received so far. So 30% of that number has been allocated for 190 and 70% of that numbers has been allocated for 491. Now, to be precise, 600 places for the 190 and about 1,400 places for 491. In relation to the ACT critical list, looks like obviously some of the occupation that has some integrity issue will be removed from the list, where the ACT government cannot verify the employment or the employment were not genuine. Those kind of occupation might be off the list very soon, which only time will tell us when they will update the critical list. At this point of time, it is looking pretty good for IT students. If they have graduated from any other states, it is ideal for IT students to probably consider Canberra as their ideal destination. Just because if you look at the critical occupation list at the moment, there are about 14 occupation list that is all ICT occupations. So there's a huge shortage. The only reason behind that is obviously there's a lot of public jobs out there, and people won't be able to apply if they have a temporary visas for those kind of public jobs because of the character clearance and everything like that, and the visa status itself too. So obviously the territory itself wanted to encourage people to get their permanent residency as soon as possible so that they can go and fulfill these skill shortages in ACT Canberra. So IT occupations seems to be a winner. Civil engineers, there are other engineer occupation as well in the list, which may stay in the list for long term. So look, I think we can base our logic looking at the critical list that is published at the moment to sort of realize or to sort of analyze what's going to happen for next financial year. So it is very important that we use that as a baseline to make up our mind in order to go to Canberra. Now, there might be a potential opportunity for small businesses in Canberra in new financial year. It's not confirmed yet. It's not validated yet. But I think it will be a good year for business owners in Canberra. Like, for example, if you are thinking about establishing a business in Canberra, or if you're thinking about becoming a shareholder or a partner of certain companies, depending upon how well your companies are performing, what's your turnover, whether or not you've been able to recruit any Australian citizens or permanent resident for the employment for a certain time of the certain period, of the time during the trading of your business. So based upon those kind of elements, there might be some metrics points rewarded to those business owners. Look, we have been providing these feedbacks to our state government or state territory government for a long time, where we have seen a lot of business owners who's moved from New South Wales and wanted to set up a business in ACT Canberra. Up until now, there was no rewarding points in metrics as such for owning a business, apart from the fact that the investment part was there, like investing on the properties or assets were there, still in the metrics at the moment. However, there might be a potential chance for new metrics to revamp with the business owners category in there, which I think is a real value add. Especially we have seen a lot of clients like hairdressers. We have seen a lot of clients as accounting itself. We have seen a lot of clients, they've been doing really well in their business in New South Wales, but just because New South Wales were not actually catering nomination policy based on the business criteria, there has been the frustration from the applicant living in New South Wales. So they are looking at migrating into states where they get reward from establishing a business. So keep an eye for Canberra. Could be one of those potential territory where business owners would like to set up the business and be able to claim the points in the metrics. So obviously, when the news are more accurate and more confirmed, then we'll bring it out to you guys. But then those ones who's actually thinking about establishing a business in Canberra right now, I think it's a good timing for you guys to start considering, if that's the alleyway that you guys wanted to start, leveraging or establishing your business. So this will be a good timing. So that's Canberra for you guys. So obviously, Canberra siders who's been living in Canberra, it's fantastic news. The numbers are looking pretty good. The critical list has always been fair, based upon how the Canberra metrics been running. And I keep saying on all my video, I personally work with all 8 states and territory. However, I find ACT government to be more structured. Their timeline's not delayed unnecessarily. The processing time of the application is on the dot. The metric system works fantastically well. At least people have some sort of guidelines and some sort of targets to achieve, as opposed to not trying to be just the devil's advocate here. As opposed to Tasmania, for example, it's the whole policy seems to be like a dog's breakfast, because the application assessment criteria is so broad. It is quite frustrating for a lot of people living in Tasmania, which I'm going to come and talk about Tasmanian nomination policy and what's going to happen in Tasmania for a new financial year. But just to wrap it up, ACT Canberra, as I said, healthy numbers. That means a lot of people who's been living there who have not been able to secure their nomination from last financial year. This could be the year for you guys to secure the nomination, especially 2,000 spots. That's a great number, and it's a great news for Canberra government itself. So 30% allocated for 190 and 70% has been allocated for 491. So that allocation number itself kind of reflects that all states and territory will be kind of focused on 491 visa more so than 190. So that's Canberra for you guys. Now, I've been getting a lot of requests from my clients living in Tasmania. I haven't done videos for Tasmania particularly for a long time. So look, we have got some news for people living in Tasmania at the moment. So the first news is the all applications for 491 nomination lodged after 28th of March 2021. that they will be refunded. That's what they're saying. So which basically means is they probably exhausted the number for this financial year, and they are looking at allocated numbers. So the allocated numbers seem similar to last year for Tasmania, but when they're going to start commencing on applications, still unsure. They said the new program will start in mid to end July, which is next month, but can't be promised anything unless there is instruction from the federal government themselves in order to start nominating people. Now, the quota given will be similar to last year, which I've already said that before. Now, in terms of the nomination criteria, there's no significant changes. However, the Migration Tasmania might provide some clarification on when the applicant will not be nominated. So, and this is the news that I personally been waiting for a long time, because when we started working in Tasmania versus Tasmania nomination criteria now, it's so confusing. It's case by case. It's like a lottery system. It's more like, some people with a similar kind of profile get refused. Some people with a similar kind of profile gets approved. It is very hard to ascertain which application will be approved, which won't be. Before, we were able to demonstrate the value-added, component of the applicant's profile in their statement, and we were able to convince the government that how this particular applicant can contribute to the community, how this particular applicant has actually completed the studies in Tasmania. And the most frustrating part is it almost seems like the studying in Tasmania is kind of overlooked. So that's a huge component, that the applicant has actually gone and invested in Tasmania and actually studied in Tasmania. And since every applicant who's going to apply for 491 190 application at this point of time, 80% I would say, would have actually completed the studies in Tasmania. But that component means nothing at the moment. So it's all relying on the nature of the job, and especially there are certain category of the job you have to be able to demonstrate, and it's very hard for people with the different skill sets and they're coming from different areas to be able to go and demonstrate the job in aged care facilities or health allied facilities. I mean, it is quite frustrating how Tasmanian government has assessing the application. So obviously we have been quite vocal about how things are running with the state government themselves, and I think that there needs to be a serious plan for a new financial year. Otherwise, if it's going to be assessed in the same sort of criteria they have prescribed before, I think the program is a huge failure, because it has no motives and it has no intention. It has no a solid plan like how these applications are getting approved. So anyways, well, that's Tasmania up until now. Now, if anyone wants to show that they are owning a business in Tasmania, that the bar has been, probably the new financial year, the bar has been set a little bit higher. So if you are showing that you're working in or you own a small business, that they want to see your business plan, your business structure, your profit and loss statement, your business activity summary, premises of the business, will also be checked and analyzed based upon what business the applicant is involved in. So there's going to be a few checks if you wanted to demonstrate that you engage in a business. I mean, I have personally experienced a lot of client has actually gone outside of their comfort zone to actually invest on a business just in a hope of getting 491 or 190 nomination, and that might not cut the chase. So you need to be able to demonstrate a little bit more than that, which is a business case, business structure, profit and loss and stuff, the BAS statement and all of that kind of stuff. There seems to be mixed message out there, like they always prioritize people who's working in health, allied health, technology, infrastructure, engineering, technology, with the relevant skill assessment. However, it's very challenging for applicant to demonstrate and be able to work in that particular area. So look, we will submit our feedback in relation to how the program should be operating for new financial year. It's up to the state government whether or not they wanted to implement this. But then, because we've been working with the Tasmanian government for a fairly long time, I think it's about a time we collect all the feedback from the other agents and how the applicants have suffered in Tasmania, especially in relation to a very confusing messaging from the Tasmanian government itself, and we as an agent not been able to ascertain which one is a real value-added application, because yes, it's COVID, there's a priority occupation. However, what about the people who's actually contributed to the community? They're working, they've been living in Tasmania for the last 2 years. So what about the people working in Woolworth and Coles? I mean, look, I think we need to look at the range of problems there, in a holistic view, and be able to collect that feedback and present back to the state government. It is a bit frustrating at the moment. However, I would still encourage you guys to engage yourself into those kind of employment if you can, and also if you can work outside of the Greater Hobart. If you can still choose the course wisely, because obviously there will be some changes from 1st of July. So up until now, we don't expect any major changes as such. So you can still study 1 year, but the only difference will be that look for the priority occupation list that Tasmania has published in their website, and those will be the courses that you wanted to opt in if you really want to study in Tasmania. Section 48 barred people in Tasmania. This has been a big problem for last financial year. So the good news is they will start accepting the application for next financial year with the Section 48 bar, but they will be requesting some additional information that will be posted in a few weeks in their website. So Tasmanian government will be posting out what's the information. I mean, look, I can wait for the information to be published in a website, but I can already speculate what will be those information. Those information will be show them that you have applied for any visa to get out of the country, for example New Zealand visa, to demonstrate if your New Zealand visa has been refused, to demonstrate that your employer is happy to recruit you back once you're back in the country. I think those will be the things that will be stipulated in the website that you need to demonstrate if you are Section 48 barred. Now, Section 48 is a big section that we cannot really waive it. So the only way you can apply for a visa if you have a Section 48 barred in your migration status is to leave the country, apply for the visa, then come back in. Now, Section 4, and that facilities will be only available for people who are in Bridging Visa A, so that you can apply for Bridging Visa B and you can travel back. However, people on Bridging Visa C, D, E, they can't actually come back after leaving the country, so they have to wait until the visa is granted, and they can eventually come back once the visa is granted. But is the employers going to be able to wait for that long to secure to keep that job for that particular employee? That's a question mark. So when they say they'll be producing some evidence, some guidelines in terms of what you need to produce if you're Section 48, I think it will be more about your attempt to apply for a visa to New Zealand or something like that. And even if it's approved, that's great news. If it's refused, you can still put that evidence in there, demonstrating that your New Zealand visa has been refused and now you're willing to go to your home country, and some supporting evidence from the employer saying that your job is kind of secured until you come back. So that is the line they're probably going to prescribe in their website. Now, in the next financial year, the priority will still be the applicants who are or have been working in a critical occupation. Again, I've already repeated that before. Health allied, technology, infrastructure, engineering, technology with the relevant skill assessment. Now, the PMSOL list has recently been announced. Now, Tasmanian government has said PMSOL is mainly for an employment-sponsored visa and is not relevant to state nomination. So the state nomination will still continue, based upon Tasmanian priority occupation list, based upon the Tasmanian own skill shortage and labor shortage. So the PMSOL list essentially will not have any impact on the Tasmanian nomination for 119.491. However, PMSOL list, we'll talk about the PMSOL list in the next topic. It's a good segue because this is what I'm going to talk about in the next topic. So PMSOL list is a priority occupation list that has been announced a few days ago. Now, this is essentially for an employer sponsorship visa. So, and more clarification on PMSOL list and priority occupation, I'll clarify that in my next topic. So that's Tasmania for you guys. As I said, this video is going to be very long, so I'm going to put a timestamp on the status when I'm going to upload this video, so you can listen to Tasmania or Canberra on that timestamp. Now that's as a good segue, I was talking about the PMSOL list before, which was first announced in September 2020 in conjunction with the National Skill Commissions to ensure the small number of critical occupations are filled to continue to create Australian jobs and aid in Australians' ongoing recovery from the impact of COVID-19. Now, the addition of 22 occupations, bringing the PMSOL list up to 41 in total. Now, what does that mean? I think a lot of migration agents and a lot of people have their own interpretation of what does that mean. But it's actually written in the media release themselves. The visa holders who have been sponsored by Australia Business in a PMSOL occupation will be subject to quarantine arrangement at their own expenses. Existing skilled migration occupation list will remain active and visa will still be processed, but priority will be given to those in occupation on the PMSOL list. Now, those two paragraphs is quite clear, isn't it? So the government focus is to bring some skill that are currently in shortage in Australia from overseas, which may require them to stay in quarantine. So obviously the PMSOL list has been designed to attract the people who is willing to apply for employer sponsorship visa. So 186 visa, 482 visa, 494 visa, these are all employer sponsorship visas. So PMSOL list is actually proactively going to look into that area. However, we have seen in the past when the PMSOL list, when we had 18 occupation on the priority occupation list before this update, a lot of people, including ourselves, we thought, okay, well, hang on a sec, there's going to be a lot of 189 invitation for those occupation in the PMSOL list. However, we only saw a very small number of people got invitation in 189, despite of their occupation being in the priority occupation list. We saw a massive influx of the nomination for the priority occupation list for 190 visa subclasses, but the 189 still remained very small. The invitation number was very small. So looking at the historical data, I've been getting phone calls every day from the accountants. Is that mean accounting is in the priority occupation list, chef is in the priority occupation list? The answer is yes, you might get invitation, but if the government's focus is 491 and 190, then there might not be a lot of invitation from federal government when it comes to 189. Rather, they would like to save those number for employer sponsorship visas. Now, if people are sort of pausing their options to go to regional area, especially for occupation like accountant, chef, cooks, hospitality workers, IT occupation engineerings, I think we should still consider regional as your backup option, because if you're thinking about 189 as your predominant pathway to get a permanent residency, remember 189 is independent visas. It's actually run by the federal government, which means you are not forfeiting 189 visa just because when you move to Canberra or Tasmania or Northern Territory, it doesn't matter. 189 will still operate, doesn't matter where you are. It's a global visa, so it's an independent visa. It's run by the federal government, so you're not forfeiting that. So please don't rely on just 189 visas just because accounting is in a PMSOL list, because there's lots of accountants waiting for 189 visa at the moment. So and they've already clarified on the media release as well. It's a small it's a small number of occupation that are in a shortage in certain area because of the COVID-19. The whole PMSOL list is actually fulfill that skill shortage in that particular small gap. So the migration program cannot rely on this particular PMSOL list for the rest of the financial year. Hence, it is very discretionary. The list could change anytime. So my advice is, obviously we're not going to just rely on the PMSOL list, because if you are to get the 189 visa, independent visa, you will get it irrespective of where you are or whatever location you're living and working. The focus should be still your 190 and 491 as a backup option, so you still not gonna fall into the situation where you run out of the visas and you haven't got your nomination yet, and you probably have to apply for a student visa temporarily to stay in Australia. Now, that's PMSOL list for you guys. In a brief, I think I explained it well, so don't rely on it as such, because history suggests 189 visa didn't came out in the fashion, even though lots of occupation were, like 18 occupation to be precise, they were in a PMSOL list last financial year as well. But we have seen these particular occupations, employ sponsorship visa, were processed relatively faster in comparison with the occupation they were not in the priority occupation list. Okay. Moving to New South Wales. So with New South Wales, I just want to clarify, PMSOL list is not just for New South Wales. A lot of people have a confusion about, okay, well, I'm living in New South Wales, so PMSOL list is applicable with me. I'm a cafe and restaurant manager, I'm a hotel and motel manager, and my occupation is not on the PMSOL list. Does that mean I'm not going to get a 190 in New South Wales? Okay, the answer is PMSOL list has nothing to do with the 190 New South Wales. 190 New South Wales New South Wales Treasury will produce a list of occupation for the new financial year very soon. How soon? We don't know. We are waiting for the update in their website too. But 190 New South Wales will operate based upon the occupation that is in New South Wales Treasury website. Okay, so they will produce the list of occupation, and we're hoping it will be some sort of alignment with the priority occupation as well. But we didn't see that last year, so I don't know. We can actually base on that too. I've got a logical thing about alignment with the priority occupation list, because it kind of makes sense for them to align. But obviously the list will be much bigger, I guess, in comparison to last year, because there are a lot of employers, there's a lot of applicants who has been impacted by COVID-19. If any year, I think New South Wales will be able to retain a good skilled migrants in this country will be the 2022, because of the border being shut, and then there's a lot of employers crying out loud for the skilled migrants. This is a good opportunity for New South Wales Treasury and New South Wales State itself to be able to put as many occupation in their list and be able to produce those numbers. And look, if I really do the numbers for last financial year, I don't even think New South Wales has actually exhausted their numbers yet, because I think there's a huge number of nominations still in the pool, has not been nominated. And guess where it's going to go? Obviously it's going to go in a rubbish bin, because the new financial year will be, the new numbers will be allocated by the federal government, so we won't be able to use the numbers that is left over from last year. So really, if the program works well, it creates a win-win situation. So the message to New South Wales government, if anyone of you are watching, is look at the occupation list in the broader scale, because we don't have to essentially follow the PMSOL list, because New South Wales has a different demographics. New South Wales has a different demand. New South Wales has a different demand from the employers themselves. There's a huge amount of skills shortage in employment markets. So I think my request would be the list has to be quite extensive in order for us to run this program in a much more efficient manner. For those ones who's living in New South Wales regional area, so look, the best advice I can give you guys is, yes, the numbers looks like it's going to be the similar compared to last year, and then the numbers looks like has already been allocated to states and territory by the federal government much early in the game this year. If you compare last year, the numbers was actually distributed after the budget, which was very late until October, and then the numbers was distributed, and the program only started kicking in somewhere around May, June, which is only a couple of months ago. So we were only proactively working in this number only a couple of months ago. But for new financial year, looks like, and look at the Canberra, for example, they've already got the numbers allocated for the next financial year. So if one territory has been already allocated a number, it doesn't make sense that if other territory has not been nominated with the numbers or the quota yet for the new financial year. So I've got a feeling the numbers has already been distributed, which is a great news for people living in New South Wales regional area, because as opposed to the previous group who actually waited for 6-7 months, I think the program could essentially start much earlier in the game. However, New South Wales Treasury has a big part to play on this. Even though sometimes the number has already been distributed, New South Wales Treasury has to give a green light to RDA, Regional Development Authorities, to start processing the application, and they need to set up the criteria based upon what went right, what went wrong in the last financial year. So they will scoop that feedback, and they'll probably try to make this program a little bit tighter. So Again, we think the program is going to be executed much quicker than last year. We still think that people should be staying alert and prepared for the next financial year, which is not that far away. Another today's 24th of June, so I think it's not that far away at all. So give or take 6-7 days, and you're already in July. So getting a job in your nominated occupation area is always advisable. It's not always easy to find a job in your nominated occupation or closely related occupation, but obviously your search, your energy should be spent on looking for a job in your nominated occupation. If not, look for the work in a critical sector like aging support, health allied, disability, agriculture sector, food processing, things like that. Because if you can't add value as working in your nominated occupation area in regional development authorities, you can always demonstrate that you're working in a critical occupation in order to secure yourself a nomination. Now, how the nomination criteria are going to roll out next financial year is yet to be finalized, but if you want to stay prepared from now on, my recommendation is look for a job in a nominated occupation or closely related occupation. If not, look for a job in the critical sectors, and make sure your residential evidence, make sure your engagement towards the community is strongly demonstrated in the application when the right timing comes in. Alright, this is turning out to be more than half an hour video, so I'm going to close this fairly quickly. Look, we are open for free consultation, free half an hour consultation. It's a face-to-face free half an hour consultation. You can book it through online. We're based in Canberra, we're based in Hobart, we're based in Sydney. Whichever branch feels convenient for you guys, you can book in a quick half an hour consultation with us. It costs you nothing. Obviously the COVID has gone up again, so I would urge you to stay safe and maintain that social distancing. Wear a face mask every indoor, outdoor. There's a the COVID restriction in place. Whenever you guys come and visit us, be truthful when you're declaring your COVID declaration form. We don't want to expose our staff member and our organization to this dreadful virus of COVID-19. So stay safe and keep watching and keep sharing this video. I'll be back again with more updates in in my next video. Up until then, I would really suggest, if you have any questions and queries, please feel free to come and see us. We are based in Sydney, as I said. I'm based in Sydney, level 7, 83 York Street in CBD. Our phone number is 0290074409, and our website www.provisa.com.au. So you can find a range of information in our website too. You can make a booking through a website. You can make a booking through a Facebook channel. There's a range of method to connect with us. But again, thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing, and stay safe. Thank you. Bye bye.